The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100. As you can see, the Nasdaq continues to basically sit at those all-time highs. Really good bounce as we started the day, pushing back into those local highs around 19.1, 19.15. We go into the S&P, look at SPY, and again, looking like it wants to break out. Now, the key levels we've been talking about were your previous highs right here around 533. You're obviously mounting and holding that level as we opened up the day as well. Monday here, 830, boom, just pushing right up. You can also see we're making a little order block here as well with some decent volume, pushing back into that range as well. So the biggest thing here, though, I will say is don't get trapped. Don't start falling over the play. Like, you look good, don't get me wrong, you look amazing, but keep our eye on the prize this week. Now, tomorrow isn't the big day, it's Wednesday, and I'm going to continue saying this, guys. Wednesday. CPI an hour before market open, that's huge. And then to make it even bigger, you go into the end of the day around 1 p.m., 2 p.m. Central. Guess what? FOMC, boom. It's going to be big. Your interest rate decision, everything in between. Well, the Fed press conference as well. That will dictate the rest of the market movement. Your PP on Thursday, Michigan data on a Friday. So again, lots of information to kind of take in here. We have some oil data tomorrow as well, but again, at the end of the day, this movement can just get wiped out. And I'm as bullish as the next guy. I'm looking for upside continuation, but I have to say, we got to keep our eye on the price here because this could easily get wiped out. That being said, though, you're sitting at highs, you look bullish, and it doesn't look like there's too much hedging going on in broad markets. So that's an overall good thing. We go back into ES, we look at what's happening here. Again, you're holding all your massive levels as well. Now, the one level here that you want to get back above on ES is back above your local high right here, 53.68. If you can get it back above that level, you're pretty incredibly bullish. You basically ended the day right there, trying to push back into high. So still really strong there. The only area of the market that looks weak is still the Dow. You can't really hold above 38.9. It's just been a brick wall. We got to get that push back up. And I think what's going to give us that the potential to get that push back up, and let's really quickly draw here too. You can kind of see a little bit of a supply level that's formed out here too on the daily and 4 hour, is right there too, going into 39.2, 39.3. What's going to give us that power to push through is going to be hopefully a good FOMC and inflation back on the downside tracking. So those are important things to be looking at. Now, we're going to be going over equities and stocks as well, so make sure you tap in. But first, let's go over this.
Speaking of trading, if you've been using a basic investing app for the past few years, I highly recommend that you step it up and graduate to a better investing platform that can grow with you, which in my opinion is today's sponsor, Moomoo. Like other platforms, Moomoo has a super intuitive user interface, really easy to use, but unlike the other platforms, they have everything that you're using right at your fingertips. Whether it be your analysis tools, up-to-the-minute live data on the markets, what's happening with options data. And it's worth mentioning, while other platforms charge a premium for the quality of data that you're getting here at Moomoo, Moomoo does not charge a dime when it comes to getting live data on the charts. So for any of you that are serious about your investment journey, Moomoo's platform is worth checking out. The link is down below. It helps me out, it helps you out. If you have any questions, comment down below. Let's get back to the video.
Now, tomorrow we're gonna get some data specifically around oil, and I want to talk about that really quick. So we're seeing the dollar bounce into the FOMC meeting and CPI. Again, partial hedging in my opinion. 30-year yield as well, pushing back into 4.6, getting a nice bounce as well. But what I'm really watching here is U.S. oil crude. You're getting back above the 200 weekly, pushing back into the 200 daily. Now, this won't impact at all inflation data. It's just happening too quick. So again, we want to see what happens going into tomorrow. Now, tomorrow, I didn't talk much about this, but we do have our OPEC report. Now, we remember last week at the OPEC meeting that they anticipated a more production, even though weaker demand was taking the oil market and energy market. So very important that we're paying close attention to this report and what happens tomorrow morning. I'll be paying close attention. This could, increase the sell-off back to the downside depending on that report, but we'll see what happens. Goldman maintains their weak sentiment on oil and energy in particular. So those are really big things right now and kind of what I'm watching there. Also, too, going into broad markets of what's happening with Bitcoin. Again, I'm watching Bitcoin very closely, especially into FOMC. I do think Bitcoin can start getting that breakout to the upside, so I'll be watching it very closely. Also, too, guys, if you're interested in our indicators, everything on our screen, our volume indicator, everything like that, the link is down below for Lux Algo, code OD40 for 40% off. But as you can see, Bitcoin trying to break out, just finding resistance at that downward trend line. You break over this all-time highs with an ease and very, very quickly, in my opinion. So again, broad market things I'm watching going into FOMC, and I think that this is going to be one of the more exciting FOMCs, especially as we go into the beginning of summer. Okay, now looking broad markets, what I'm looking at in particular stock-wise, we have had a few little bit of fireworks. AVGO preparing to break out. They have earnings on Wednesday, so make sure you're watching this very closely. This could start exploding towards 1600. It's kind of crazy. This looks very, very similar back here to 900, 924, the break and retest. So watching that very, very closely. But the bigger name here is LRCX. And LRCX is interesting because it's a similar chart, but looks, in my opinion, like more bullish, less like an ascending triangle. You still have that higher lows, obviously, just being made there. But the thing that I'll say here is that you're like just getting the breakout right now, and you don't have earnings this week. So I do think LRCX can start running. And as we go into some of those options, I like a more dated position here. That's my opinion. The 1100s make a lot of sense for August. They're a little bit more expensive, but you can go a little bit more risky towards July 19th. A week before their earnings. Again, like the 1100s, I think they're valuable. I think they make sense. And I think if AVGO goes well, if FOMC goes well, I think LRCX runs towards 1100. Personal opinion. You'd have a massive opportunity on this name if that does happen. So what I'd be watching there, no short-term plays here, at least until FOMC gets released. That's just my personal opinion. I'll go over more AVGO plays after their earnings, but I'm sitting on my hands until then. Micron's also another really big semiconductor here I've been talking about. If you guys don't follow us on Twitter, I recommend doing so. I posted this earlier. I'm going over Micron before you started getting that breakout, at 133. So again, you push into 135, almost 136. So if you're following on Twitter, I recommend just checking it out. Again, a lot of free information and content there. So Micron looks good. I've been trying to tell you guys, cheaper semiconductor name that has a lot of strength and a lot of continuation in it. Again, you go and look at something like July 19th, 40 days out, or 39 days out now. Very cheap contracts. You can make money on these, right? So important to understand where you find that value and that opportunity there. Today we had AMD get a downgrade. And again, in my opinion, if you're going long on semiconductors, AMD is the one to go short on if you want to hedge for yourself. Just a personal opinion. If it starts breaking below 159, I do think this is going to start dropping very, very quickly towards 145, in particular, 200 daily SMA. So that's what I'd be watching personally, and I think this could start really taking into effect. And definitely one of the names I'd be looking for downside if FOMC goes poorly. Make sure you're watching that as well. I like to show both opportunities, the up and the downside. So again, AMD, again, a lot of you guys, we obsess over NVIDIA and these and that, and you don't really understand what you can afford. But again, these are very cheap contracts. 155 is around 575. To me, that's crazy. The value is just clearly there. So really quick, we'll go back into a few other names. Now, you had Apple's WWDC event, and I actually liked the event. They focused on what they needed to focus on. I think this will increase their iPhone sales. I'm thinking Apple's close to a buying opportunity. Now, there's a few levels you're really watching here on Apple, but I would be really, really vigilant into where you're at here, near 191, 189. I think Apple did really good at what they're announcing. ChatGPT, all the integrations. You can go look them up on Twitter. Really cool what they're doing. They're focused on the right stuff finally. They're not talking about nonsense and iPads. They have some new features coming out for the iPad and stuff, but they really are hammering home on what's selling, and that's what they needed to do. So I do think that Apple can start pushing back up with a good FOMC, and I think it's going to be a safer name to play overall. That's my personal opinion. So definitely keep these guys on your watch list because I do think Apple has some explosive potential here. Definitely watching them for a dip buy, coming back down to 191, like I said right here, and then maybe even down towards 189. That's where I'd be looking personally. So again, watching vigilantly into Wednesday. Big opportunity there. Obviously, contracts on Apple, very cheap and affordable. Netflix is really battling here. You are holding a lot of your key levels. You're pushing back into 642. I do think with a good FOMC, a lot of upside, but I don't want to just talk in hypotheticals of just, FOMC, but I want to talk about big opportunities out there too. And that brings me to Enphase. And I think Enphase is one of the names you have to be watching. I mentioned this to Discord today. Enphase is one of my top names that I'm watching, and I'm going further dated. I like something like the August 16th contracts here. Very affordable, dated, the 150s, 160s. I think if things go well with FOMC, I think this thing can erupt towards 152, then 170. You look at, close competitor here, FSLR. It's sitting at all-time highs, just, trading in a range, ready to explode into its all-time highs, which go all the way back towards 2008, which is around 320, 317, 320. So I do believe Enphase has some real potential. I think it's undervalued. Very similar to how I view Lulu when I traded that one. So things I'd be looking for personally. Okay. Make sure you understand that what I'm looking for there. Super clear, easy to understand. I can go to mid caps too, like a Robinhood, other names I've been liking. Those are just dated positions. They still look great, holding up amazing. Another name I'm watching here, and this is more of a small mid cap that you guys always are mentioning, always asking about, but you always ask about it when it's already road running. So Celsius, the drink company, is coming back down to its 200 SMA and its previous high here. There's been a buying opportunity. This is probably it. Your stops are pretty tight. If you get a daily hold below 200, I think you just get out of that position. Or you get below like 63, down into 62.5, you cut that position as well. The upside here, obviously back, towards 100. You had a double top there, so that is concerning. But what I'd be looking for in the opportunity playing out there as well. Amazon, I've been mentioning this one as well. I think I mentioned this over the weekend as also. As we zoom in here on Amazon, you can see we came back into our level, previous high, 184. We bounced. Called this one out in Discord as well today. Really nice push back to the upside. I didn't trade this one though. I just was really patient, sitting on my hands. But yeah, you get a nice push up, bounce back into it this morning and pushing back up. Amazon definitely finding buyers since we got above that key level of 180, 180.2. So again, what we like to see there, guys. And again, it's just focusing on the names that have the most potential here. But again, over the next 24, 48 hours, whatever it may be till the FOMC meeting, I just urge caution, guys. I think you have a lot of opportunities here, but you're not going to make all the money between right now and the FOMC meeting. You're going to make the money after that meeting. That's just highly likely. If you want to, start risking it, there's some names here I mentioned, but I think the biggest opportunity comes at the end of this, and that's, Wednesday afternoon and going into Thursday, going into Friday. So that's my personal opinion. If you have questions, comment down below. I'd love to answer them. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of just sitting here being very patient. Have a good one, traders. See you tomorrow.